Cast your minds back to 1987. I would love to say to you, I used to have long hair like this. I did used to have hair, but it certainly never looked anything like this. I would also like to say to you, I was experimenting in makeup and going out to the clubs and enjoying the nightlife, but sadly, no. Way back in October 1987, I became a teenager. The memories. 13 years old, my whole life ahead of me. I'll tell you what, the movies weren't half bad as well. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Carl. Today's video is Back to the Movies 1987. This is a series I started where I talk about my top 5 movies of each individual year, starting with the year 1980 and going right the way through those years right up to the present year. Also, what was making the headlines that particular year, and also what was the #1 toy for that particular year as well. If you popped over to my channel for the very first time, thank you so much. Please consider subscribing if you can. Thank you. The year is 1987, and on the 11th of June, Margaret Thatcher becomes the first Prime Minister in 160 years to win a third consecutive term. And who remembers this one? On the night of the 15th of October, one of the biggest storms was about to hit the UK. I remember waking up on the morning of the 16th of October and walking to school. I remember seeing trees on top of cars. It was just complete chaos. But wasn't there a certain weatherman that said the storm would miss the UK?
Good afternoon to you. Earlier on today, apparently a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't. But having said that, actually, the weather will become very windy. But most of the strong winds, incidentally, will be down over Spain and across into France as well.
And on the 18th of November, a fire broke out at London's busiest tube station, King's Cross, sadly killing 31 people. But what was the #1 toy for that particular year? Well, cassette tapes were doing really well back then. There's people out there now going, what are they? And I remember from memory, radio controlled cars were doing really well. And two for the girls, Barbie and Civilian Families were good sellers. 1987 was another good year for movies. If you do get time, please take a look, because there are so many good movies that were released back in 1987 that are actually classics today. But sadly, they do not make my top 5 list, and I can't fit them in my honourable mentions list either. Talking about honourable mentions, I do have 4 honourable mentions. These are very quick honourable mentions. Movies that were good but didn't quite make my top 5 list. The first one is Inner Space. Who remembers that movie? The second one is Creepshow 2. I love those short stories in that movie. The third one is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Running Man. And lastly, I so wanted to fit this movie in. It's the third biggest grossing movie of 1987. Stars Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Those were my honourable mentions. So what movies did actually make my top 5 list for 1987? Please do remember, this isn't the right list, it's just a little bit of fun, just my personal opinion. Okay, let's begin this list at number 5. A movie starring the late Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, Dirty Dancing. And the story follows a young woman called Frances Baby Houseman who spends the summer at a Catskills resort but falls in love with the camp's dance instructor. A very good movie. That one comes in at number 5. Just out of curiosity, has anyone tried that catch with their other halves in that movie? Put in those comments down below. Number 4 is the second biggest grossing movie in 1987, Fatal Attraction starring Michael Douglas and Glenn Close, who both were fantastic in this movie. The story follows a married man called Dan Gallagher, played by Michael Douglas, who has a one-night stand which turns out to be the worst moment in his life when that lover begins to stalk him and his family.
A look that led to an evening.
You're attracted to each other at the party, that was obvious. You're on your own for the night, that's also obvious.
A mistake he'd regret all his life.
Now where's your wife?
Hey, honey, oh, God.
And you're here with a strange girl, being a naughty boy.
I don't think having dinner with anybody's a crime.
I've got to see you.
This has got to stop.
Number 3 on my list. He's already had one movie in my honourable mentions list. It's a movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator. The story follows a team of commandos on a special mission in a jungle that soon find themselves being hunted by an extraterrestrial warrior. That one comes in at number 3.
But now,
What's got Billy so spooked?
there's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. They're up against the ultimate enemy.
Holy Mother of God.
Nothing like it has ever been on Earth before.
Number 2 is a movie franchise that they did turn into a TV series that did actually turn out to be quite good. It's a movie starring Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, you guessed it, Lethal Weapon. The story follows two newly paired police cops that are complete opposites, and in order for them to succeed, they must put aside their differences in order to catch a drug smuggling gang.
Raj, meet your new partner.
New partner. Too old for this.
Number 1, you'll be surprised to know that this movie wasn't the biggest grossing movie way back in 1987. I'll let you know what that movie was in a moment. But I've chosen this movie because it is a classic today, and I remember watching it with my parents, and there's a particular scene at the start that was quite horrific back then. I remember watching it and thinking, oh my word. But it's not that bad now. It's a movie starring Peter Weller and Nancy Allen. You've guessed it, Robocop. The story is set in a crime-ridden Detroit city. Peter Weller plays a Detroit policeman, Alex Murphy, who gets brutally wounded on duty and returns to the police force as mainly a cyborg, but is haunted by these distant memories of what happened to him.
It is my great pleasure to present to you Robocop.
This guy is really good.
He's not a guy, he's a machine.
A very good movie. It's a classic today. So number 1 on my list is, of course, Robocop. Just in case you're wondering what the biggest grossing movie of 1987 is, can you guess it? It is in fact 3 Men and a Baby. Please do get involved in those comments. I would love to know for this video, what are your top 3 movies for the year 1987. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you like this video, please do give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe if you can. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.